All right, so listen up. If you think you've got the whole muscle thing figured out, well, you might want to think again. Because it turns out the basic science of strength, of endurance, the stuff we all thought was, settled, it's literally being rewritten as we speak.
I mean, you know the picture, right? You've got the marathon runner, lean, looks like they could go forever. And then you have the sprinter, just pure explosive power. It's like they're built from completely different stuff. And for decades, the science behind that difference seemed really, really simple.
We were always told the secret wasn't just about how much they trained, but that it was coded deep down, inside the actual fibers of their muscles. It's that classic story, right? The story of two totally different kinds of muscles.
So, let's just quickly recap that textbook story. The one that's been in every sports science book for like 100 years. The tale of two fibers.
Okay, so the super simple version is this. Marathoners, their muscles are packed with one kind of fiber. Sprinters, totally different kind. One's for endurance, the long haul, and the other is all about that instant raw power. So here's the breakdown. On one side, you've got your type 1 fibers. We call them slow twitch. Just think of these as the marathon runners inside your muscles. They're slow to contract, they run on oxygen, that's what makes them that dark red color, and man, can they resist fatigue. They just keep going. Then you've got the type 2s, the fast twitch fibers. These are your sprinters. They're paler, they fire off with this incredible explosive speed using stored energy, but they gas out fast.
And look, for the longest time, this clean, two-sided model was it. That was the truth. But then, scientists got better tools. They could zoom in and look at individual muscle fibers. And suddenly, that simple, neat little picture, it started to get, well, a lot more complicated.
And that brings us to the first big twist in this whole story. Let's talk about hybrid fibers.
Because here's the thing. It turns out our muscles aren't just a bucket of slow twitch and a bucket of fast twitch. The reality is, it's more like a spectrum, a whole range. And a lot of our fibers are actually living somewhere in the middle. So if you look at a typical muscle, a pretty big chunk, like 15%, are these hybrid fibers. They're kind of like cellular chameleons, They have properties of both the slow and the fast types. And what's really cool is they can actually shift and change based on how you train. Now this fact alone kind of messes up the old simple model. But believe it or not, that's not even the craziest part of this story.
Okay, so here's where things get really wild. The biggest shock to the system, it comes from this totally groundbreaking study. One that doesn't just tweak the old ideas, it challenges the entire foundation of how we even classify these fibers. It's a total game changer.
But to really get this, you first have to know about this one specific protein. For decades, scientists believed this single protein was, it was the king, the absolute ruler of what a muscle fiber is.
It's called the myosin heavy chain, or MYH for short. The best way to think about it is like the engine of the muscle fiber. I mean, literally. And the thinking was, the type of MYH engine you had determined everything about that fiber, especially how fast and powerful it could be.
And I'm not kidding, this wasn't just some casual theory, it was dogma. The entire system we use, type 1, type 2A, type 2X, it's all based on which version of that myosin engine is inside the fiber. It was the undisputed king. End of story. Or so we thought. Until now. A huge study in 2025 published in Nature Communications used some crazy new tech to look at thousands and thousands of single muscle fibers. And what they found was stunning. That myosin engine, the thing we thought was number one, turns out it's not the most important thing making these fibers different. It's number two. So wait a second. If the engine isn't the main driver, then what is? Well, the answer makes us shift our focus. We have to stop looking at just the parts and start looking at the process that actually builds those parts.
Say hello to the new king, the ribosome. Okay, so if myosin is the engine, think of ribosomes as the factories. They're these tiny, super complex assembly lines that build and maintain the whole fiber, including the engine itself. They pump out all the proteins that make a fiber a fiber.
So, when the researchers crunched the numbers, when they looked at what really accounted for the biggest differences between all these fibers, everyone, and I mean everyone, expected to see the myosin engine right there at the top. But it wasn't. The thing that explained the most variation wasn't the engine, it was the factory itself, the ribosomal machinery that builds the whole thing. This is a huge deal. It's a genuine paradigm shift. For so long, the belief was the engine defines the car, right? Myosin defines the fiber. But now we know it's the factory that builds the car that's an even bigger piece of the puzzle. The ribosome is a massive driver of the fiber's identity. Okay, so I know this might sound like we're getting into the weeds of science here, but trust me, the implications of this are enormous. I'm talking from the most elite gyms on the planet all the way to the doctor's office.
Why does this matter? Well, for one, it completely changes how we can think about training. We can develop exercises that target the fiber's manufacturing process, not just trying to change the fiber type. For medicine, this gives us a totally new angle for looking at muscle diseases, things like Meibomian myopathy. And honestly, for every single one of us, this could open the door to new ways to fight that muscle loss that happens as we get older.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. The authors of the study said it perfectly. They wrote that their data shows the real limitations of solely relying upon the old myosin-based system. So what does that mean? It means the old model wasn't necessarily wrong, it was just incomplete. We were missing a huge piece of the puzzle. Now we have a much clearer, deeper picture of what makes our muscles so amazing.
So yeah, the entire story of muscle, a story we thought we knew, just got a brand new, even more fundamental chapter. And it really makes you wonder, right? What other facts in our biology textbooks are just waiting for the right technology to come along and rewrite everything we thought we knew?